Okay, we're going to get started. My name again is Linda Abraham. I'm the founder of and president of Accepted. I've been an MBA admissions consultant for over 20 years. I've been quoted in Business Week, the Wall Street Journal, I think Times of London, U.S. News, many publications about MBA admissions. I've been involved. I've helped thousands of people gain acceptance to top business schools. So that's a little bit about me, but now I'd like to learn a little bit about you. And first of all, I'd like to know, where are you located? City, can you, in the question window, which we're going to use for your questions as well as your answers, can you please tell me city and state if you're in the United States, city and country if you're outside the United States? Ann Arbor, Michigan. Ooh, it's cold there. New York, Bangalore, India, London, Kalamazoo, Michigan. Michigan's well represented. Hyderabad, Providence, Rhode Island, Bangalore, India, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, neighbor. Welcome. Kathmandu, Nepal, Bangalore, Sacramento, Pune, India, Delhi, India, Chicago, Hyderabad, Lagos, Nigeria, Bethesda, Maryland, New York, Dallas, Johannesburg, South Africa, Los Angeles, welcome, neighbor. Washington, D.C., welcome, close and far, near and far. Washington, D.C., Mexico, Colombia, San Francisco, New York City. All right, so we have North America, South America, Africa, and Europe. We had London. I didn't see anybody in Asia, but it's probably the middle of the night in Asia. So we have a nice international representation here. Delhi, okay, and we also had Asia. Yeah, of course we had Asia. All right, so welcome from near and far. I also want to remind you before we continue that we did prepare a handout. If you have not yet printed out and your handout, you're welcome to do so. It's in the handouts section of your control panel. That would be my suggestion. I think you'll get a lot more from the webinar if you are taking notes using the worksheet, but it's up to you. Now, I also want to, again, I like to learn a little bit about you before we start, so I'm going to post this poll, okay? And please choose the option that best describes you. And the question is, which best describes you? Applying for the first time round 3 or next year, applied round 1 or round 2 of this cycle, applied previously but not this year. Okay. All right, we have 63% having voted. I'd like to get it up. I like actually over 80%. So, all right, we're getting up there. We're getting closer. 75%, 77%. We have a clear winner, by the way. With 80% having voted, I'm going to close the poll, share the poll, and let's go over the result. 86% of you applied for the first, are applying for the first time round 3 or next year. 14% applied round 1 or round 2 of this cycle, and none of you applied in a previously but in some other year. So most of you are actually first-time applicants contemplating round 3 or next year, and then the remainder are applied round 1 or round 2 of this cycle. I actually anticipated a higher percentage in the applied round 1 or round 2 of this cycle. I expected a majority to be in the category that they are, but I didn't expect it to be that much of a difference. Okay, so let's move on. This is definitely the time of year when I get lots of questions from applicants who are asking, with comments like, I applied and was rejected at my first choice schools. I just wasn't qualified, I guess. Now I want to apply to lower ranked schools. Should I try round 3 or wait until next year? Or another very common question is, I really wanted to apply round 1 or round 2 of this cycle, but somehow life got in the way, or my GMAT score didn't end up where I wanted it initially. I have my recommendations all lined up. I know why I want to get an MBA, where I want to go. Should I apply round 3 or wait until next year? Before we move into the meat of today's webinar, which is answering those questions, I want to lay out a couple of parameters. Sometimes my webinars and articles on blog posts and guides that we have, they're all very prescriptive, and I try to make them almost recipe-like, very concrete with clear steps and clear instructions. Other times, however, the nuances of MBA admissions combine with the complexity of life and individual situations, and I can't really do more in a webinar than raise issues and give guidelines. And that's definitely today's kind of webinar. Today's webinar is about raising issues and providing guidelines. And I want to shine a spotlight on the most important issues for you to consider as you decide whether to apply now or not. I'm basing my advice on my over 20 years of experience as an MBA admissions consultant. And I'm also going to ask for your assistance and participation. I know you've given a lot of thought to this question as we move on. So again, as I said before, we officially started during the gymnastics part, the pre-webinar gymnastics part. Don't get too comfortable. Now let's discuss first what are the differences between round 3, round 4, and earlier rounds. And I'd like you to tell me what you think of that in the question window. Okay? Okay, Pratik says limited number of seats. That's definitely one. Round 3, rounding out the class. Good, James. Anybody else? Less scholarship money? Right, Rajat. Boy, you guys are good. Very good. Difficult for international applicants, round 3. That's right, Stephen. All right, you got the main disadvantages. Very good. You're right. The biggest disadvantage is that there are fewer open seats. And as somebody said, they're looking to round out the class. They're really looking for the highly qualified, and they're looking for diversity. Somebody else mentioned correctly that there usually is less merit aid available when decisions come out. And another factor that I didn't see mentioned, but it's also relevant, is that there is less on-campus housing. By the time you get an answer, you may not get any. You will be unable to attend an admit weekend, which many applicants find very, very helpful. And as many of you are saying, especially considering the international nature of this audience, it can be harder for international applicants to get visas in time to attend, which is really heartbreaking if you can't. Now, let's be more positive. What are some indications that you should apply round 3? You're all keenly aware of the problems. Who should apply round 3? Anyone? Locals? Non-traditional background? Okay, James, that's good. You can help them round out the class. Same idea. Very compelling profile. Good, Naren. Those who have applied for previous rounds, yes, with a caveat, and we'll get to that in a little bit. People way above average age of the class, probably not. There has to be more to it than that. Chaitanya, and I apologize if I mispronounce anybody's name, people who have a unique and competitive profile. Very high GMAT scores. Well, that's kind of, I like Chaitanya's, the way he phrased it better, or she phrased it better. High in qualifications. Good, good. Yep, you're very good. Okay, so let me tell you my thoughts. I appreciate yours. Let me tell you my thoughts on it. People who want the potential upside to reapplication if you do not get in round 3. Glenn, can you raise that again at the end? It's a very interesting point. If I don't address it in the course of the webinar, please raise it again during the Q&A. People who really, really want to go this year. They don't want to wait, and they really, really want to go. People who have competitive GMAT and grades for the schools they're applying to in general have a very impressive profile. People who have a clear goal and now know how the schools they're applying to will help them achieve that goal. People who know exactly where they want to attend. They're very ready. So, and people who are willing to spend time and money now for even a reduced chance of acceptance in order to have some chance of starting in September. You're realistic, you're prepared, you're ready, and you're willing to take the reward of starting your MBA and your post-MBA career a year earlier, even if the investment at this point in time doesn't pay off directly with a 2018 start date. People who are also have diversity elements in their profile. This can be ethnic, regional, professional, or experiential. It's something exceptional that says you're going to really add to the class and community at your target school. Another group of people who I think should apply round 3 or round 4 would be and again, 14% of you who said that you applied round 2 or round 3, but you aimed a little bit too high. You did not apply to the right schools. You did not apply in the best, most optimal way. So if you applied round 1 or round 2 and are willing to apply at schools where you are more competitive, or willing to apply in a way that presents you more competitively, then it makes sense for you to apply round 3. And realize, and I've talked to many admissions directors on this point, nobody has a round 3 or round 4 with the sole intent of rejecting every applicant. The only way you have 0 chance of acceptance is if you don't apply. It may be reduced round 3 or round 4, but it still exists. All right, so are there any questions on what I've raised so far? Irene, you're asking a really good question. Does the same criteria apply to executive MBA programs? No. Executive MBA programs expect more later applicants, and they don't expect the majority of their applications to come in by the January deadlines. Okay, so it's a little bit different for executive MBA programs, and they definitely accept more people round 3, round 4 in the spring. Linda asks, is there a difference in having a high GMAT or high GRE? For the overwhelming majority of programs, there is no difference. Some programs, INSEAD specifically, prefers the GMAT, and they're very clear on that. So, that is a slight difference, but in general, there's no difference. Niran asks, what are the chances of a scholarship in round 3 for international applicants? Like for all applicants, they are reduced. Round 3. Not 0, but it's reduced. Sang Wan asks, can you define prepared? How about if I need to still take the GMAT? I would think that does not mean you're really prepared. Now, if you're going to tell me I'm going to retake the GMAT in 2 weeks, then you'll be prepared in 2 weeks, and you still have a month or 2 months or 6 weeks to put your applications together, then yes, you would still be prepared. The point is that you're not figuring things out. Pratik asks, is there any percentage estimate of the chances to those who apply for round 3? No. I would assume what I would do since some of you are very numbers oriented, I have an actuary for a husband, so I'm used to this. If you look at a school and it has a 20% or 30%, let's say the school has a 20% acceptance rate, which is a pretty low acceptance rate, I would assume that round 3 is probably more like 10%. I'm pulling that figure out of the air. So I would just cut whatever the overall acceptance rate is for the program by about 50% and use that as your guide. But that is a number pulled out of the air. I've never seen stats on that. Audrey asks, what is the difference between the American and European MBA round 3s? I think, again, I think European MBA programs are more open to later round applications, but there still is some reduction in acceptance rates. Type it in. Now, I'm going to continue, and we can come back to the questions later on. Okay? Let's go back to the questions before. We discussed indications that you should, that you should not start. We discussed indications you should apply. What are some indications, other than the ones we just mentioned, that you should wait until next year? In your views? I'll tell you what I think in a minute. Better chances, but I mean in terms of your profile, what are some things about you that would tell you you don't have a competitive GMAT score? Okay, that would be one indication, James. You need to retake. You need to prepare again and retake. Good, James. Anybody else? Application is half cooked. Good, Steve. And that's a great. Can I use that line? You have a common profile. Good, Laura. Low GRE score, essay not ready, haven't asked references yet. Yeah, that probably goes with the application half cooked that Steve mentioned. Less than 2 years of work experience. Good, Mitali. Yeah, that's good. Don't have a clear story of why an MBA. That's right, James. If you have the ability to make positive changes to your application with the additional time frame, excellent. That was from Glenn. Thank you. All right, here are some of the ones that I came up with. And you will see echoes of what you said in what I've come up with. Okay, you're unhappy with your stats or profile and feel something will improve significantly for next year. That's major. Especially if you're aiming for the more competitive programs or a scholarship is really important for you, then you need to apply at the best time and with the best application. And if now isn't that time, or you can't put together that application, you're unhappy with your stats, well, wait until next year. 2, you're stressed at work and you aren't sure you'll have the time necessary to put together a great application. We see this a lot with our clients where they are just struggling because of work demands and the application process. Yes, we can help you. Yes, we save them time. But it still takes them to write the essays, or you to write the essays. And it does take time and thought. Another option is you are from an overrepresented group and you have no discernible diversity elements. Now, we're all individuals, we're all unique, we all have our own individual story, but there are overrepresented groups in the applicant pool. And there are people who've kind of been checking off the boxes and doing all the right things, but have not done anything particularly distinctive. They have not, they don't come from an unusual background. They haven't had unusual experiences. That person should probably wait. You're on the low side in terms of experience and feel that the next 6 months will give you a lot of increased responsibility. Or, as I think James said, your post-MBA goals, your reasons for applying to specific schools are fuzzy and shallow. And you fear that even if accepted, you will have trouble getting your visa and financing before the start of school. That's a really good reason not to apply now. All right, let's shift gears a little bit and apply these principles. It's time for you folks to put on your admissions consultant's hat, and you've been doing a great job to this point. Let's go through a few examples. They are made up, but they're based on, again, my experience. Let's meet Mei Chang. She is a U.S.-born woman of Chinese extraction. She decided last week she wants to go for an MBA. She has 1 year of full-time work experience and hates her accounting job. She hasn't yet taken the GMAT. She wants to go to Harvard, Stanford, or Wharton because those are the top-ranked programs. She attended UC Berkeley and had a 3.3 GPA in Asian Studies. She is not sure what she wants to do after her MBA. Raise your hand, and there is a hand icon on your control panel if you think that May should apply round 3. Okay, well, not too many of you do. 3% do. And how many of you, let me just put your hands down. How many of you think she should wait till round 1 or later even? Okay, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. All right, 56% think she should wait. And I agree with you entirely. What should she do to prepare herself successfully? Well, I would tell her to research career options in schools. I would tell her to change jobs to something she likes and something that will move her closer to whatever long-term goal she settles on. I would tell her to prepare for and take the GMAT and get the highest score she can because, frankly, her 3.3 in Asian Studies, not so much the Asian Studies, but 3.3, unless there was a tremendously rising GPA and some extenuating circumstances, is low for the programs that she's aiming for. Now let's look at our next candidate, okay, next applicant, Jorge. Jorge is a Mexican male engineer, obviously he's male, working for Pemex, the Mexican oil monopoly, and he's been doing so for 5 years. He's had steady promotions and manages 6 other engineers. He got his bachelor's with a 3.4 and a master's with a 3.6 in engineering from USC. He wants to go into strategy consulting with a focus on the energy industry, and he has analytics experience. He can get good recommendations. He's not at all concerned about visa issues. He has a 730 balanced GMAT. He plays soccer on a regular basis and has been a team captain. He's planning to apply to MIT Sloan, Kellogg, UT Austin, Haas, Ross, and Duke. Do you think, let me make sure your hands are all down. Yeah, they are. Do you think he should apply round 3? Okay, wonderful. 61% say he should apply. How many of you do not feel he should apply round 3? He should wait till next year. 8% feel he should wait. 9%? 8% feel he should wait till next year. Okay, I agree with those of you who said he should apply now. He has diversity elements. He has the grades. He has the GMAT score. He knows where he's applying to. All these schools are good for the goals that he's set for himself. I would encourage him to apply round 3. Now let's go to our next candidate, okay? Ajay. Ajay graduated from the University of Mumbai with a 70% for his BTech. He worked for Infosys for 3 years in India. He has promotions and good recs, all in programming. He is a team lead. He has a 670 GMAT. He wants to go into investment banking and then move into private equity and venture capital. He has very limited community service. He's a member of a bunch of organizations, a leader in none. He wants to apply to Haas, Chicago, Stanford, NYU Stern, and Columbia. Let me put your hands down. Now, who thinks that Ajay should apply round 3? Okay, 10% of you think he should apply round 3. And how many of you think he should wait till next year? All right, we're getting a good response here. A little more difference than the last ones, but we'll go over this. Okay, so 10% of you thought he should apply round 3. 48% of you think he should wait till next year. Again, I agree with the majority here. He has a lot of work to do to make himself a competitive candidate. I'm sorry, 690 GMAT, not a 670, like I said. Many investment banks will want to see a 700 GMAT. He doesn't have it. His background is very vanilla. He's an Indian male engineer. He's not showing any leadership. His community service is basically non-existent. I don't think he would be a very good, and he might have visa problems. So I don't think it makes sense for him to apply round 3. What I would encourage him to do is prepare for and retake the GMAT and get over a 700. I would also suggest that he apply to additional schools that both support his goal and where he may be more competitive. He might want to try to move into a business role at work, because right now he's kind of in a very narrow technical niche. And he should probably consider taking the CFA and try and assume some leadership roles off the job. Again, it could be in sports, it could be community service, it could be in one of the clubs that he's a member of, but hasn't really assumed any responsibility for. And last example, okay? So let's put your hands down. This is Susan. Susan graduated West Point with a 3.1 in 2013. She has a 700 GMAT. She served in Afghanistan and is getting out of the Army in April. She wants to apply to Yale School of Management, Duke, Darden, Georgetown, Cornell, Johnson, Ross, and USC. She's considering those schools. She's probably not going to apply to all of them. Her goal is international development and general management. And she really, really wants to start in September 2018 because this will give her just the right amount of a break between separating from the military and starting business school. Okay, let's put your hands down. Now raise your hand if you think Susan should apply round 3. Okay, we're at 58% for round 3. I'm going to put your hands down. And who thinks she'd apply round 1 of next year? Okay, we got 5% for round 1 of next year and 58% for this year. I agree with those who are saying round 3 of this year. The 58% of you, I completely agree with you. She definitely has distinctive experience. Schools are trying to increase the representation of women, and the schools she has are appropriate for her goals. She has a clear goal. She has a clear reason for wanting to start now. Her GMAT is competitive at most of the schools she's applying to. I think she's ready to go and should try it. Now, I'm going to ask a question, and I'm also going to give away a copy of MBA Missions for Smarties to the first 2 people who answer this question correctly. Okay? So but please put both the complete answer in your response, and you should respond to the question window. Okay? So the question is, what are 2 indications I discussed today that you should apply round 3? Mark K, you got it? Oh, wow, you guys are good. The screen is jumping really fast. Mark K got it. And the second one, Fiona and Yasmina. Okay, Rachel, do you have those names? No. Okay, great. All right, next question. And again, the first 3 who get the 2 indications, but please put them both in one answer. Two indications that I discussed today that you should apply in the fall or later, round one or later. What would be indications that you should wait? All right, Irene V, Jackie A, and Glenn C. Okay? But I can tell from the answers you guys are really good. So that's wonderful. Okay. Now, I've highlighted here issues you need to consider um, as you consider when to apply most effectively for you. The bottom line lesson that I hope you take away from this is that the decision is an individual one, and it really depends on individual goals and circumstances. If you came here thinking I was going to give one answer that's good for everybody, well, sorry to disappoint you. That clearly just isn't the case. It's just not accurate. And I've tried to illustrate that with the examples I've given and the advice that I've provided. And let's face it, it can be very hard to be objective about oneself. It can be hard to avoid the confirmation bias we are all subject to. For example, you want to apply now, you want to start your MBA, but you know what? It's just not, you don't have the GMAT, you don't have the experience, maybe you don't have the diversity elements, or you do have the visa concerns. As I said at the beginning of the webinar, in a group setting, I can raise issues to think about and give guidelines, but I can't go beyond that until you take advantage of the expertise and experience that exists on accepted staff. One-on-one, we can explore and help you develop an action plan based on your responses to the following questions. How important is it for you to start your MBA in September versus waiting a year? How important is to you and the achievement of your career goals to go to a top MBA program? How important is it to you that you apply once or just one more time? We would love to guide you in choosing when and where to apply, and then in optimizing your MBA application so that you apply confidently and successfully and efficiently. We have already advised thousands of successful MBA applicants in our 20-plus years in business. We've shown them how to apply at the right schools at the right time and in the optimal way. And we know it's not easy. You're juggling work, life, family, community service, and applications. It's hard to know where to apply and how to apply. We get it. We've been there many, many times before. When you engage with Accepted, you get access to expertise and experience that comes from decades on both sides of the admissions desk. That's what our staff has. You get the confidence that comes when you know you're working with a seasoned, dedicated, top-notch pro. And you get options to choose from that fit your needs, so you save time and apply effectively. And you also know that you're optimizing your application to maximize your chances of acceptance whenever you apply. Now, some may say Accepted seems expensive, and it's definitely not a cheap service because of the quality of our staff. But our fees are peanuts compared to the cost of an MBA. And furthermore, there are expensive and less obvious risks associated with not using Accepted. Reapplication can cost a couple $1,000s easily, especially if you have to interview or you have to retake the GMAT. One additional year of pre-MBA earnings can cost in 5 figures. If you dislike your job, you may have one more year of it. And you have the potential that you could have gotten into a better program with lifelong higher earnings and network. And I'll let you calculate the cost of that one. Every year, we work with applicants who talked to us a year earlier and decided after taking the do-it-yourself approach and getting rejected to work with us. They would have been better off working with us initially, and so would you. But enough from me. Let's hear from Accepted's clients. I'm circling back to let you know that I got in off the Yale School of Management waitlist with round 3 admits today. That's just one of them. We're here at number 2. I want to thank you and Natalie for all of your help these past 2 years. I got accepted into all 3 programs I applied to and received a $20,000 scholarship from my top choice. None of this would have been possible without your help. The service you and your team provided literally just paid for itself. I'm extremely grateful. Thank you so much for all your help. Here's what I'd like you to do after the Q&A. Visit accepted.com/MBA/services. Choose the service that's right for you, get the guidance you need, and apply confidently and effectively. It's now January. We can still work with you on your round 3 applications, or we can advise you how to optimize your profile and be ready to hit the ground running for round 1 applications as they come out in the spring. Contact us ASAP and we can help you from scratch, review and edit your essays, or discuss with you the best way for you to proceed given your profile, what's important to you, and your time frame. Our goal is to guide you, as we guide the clients you've heard from, in optimizing your application. Take these steps to work with an accepted MBA admissions consultant and have the kind of experience and success that these clients have had. Now, at the same time, if you have questions for me now, either about our services or about the material I've discussed today, please fire away. And I think we also have already some marked, so I'm going to look for those. Yes. All right, Glenn asked about earlier, and I want to raise this, the potential upside to reapplication if you do not get in round 3. For most schools, look favorably on reapplication. So there is a potential upside. However, I would never advise anybody to apply just to have that potential upside because it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. Some schools, notably INSEAD, do not encourage reapplication at all. And other programs, when they see a reapplicant, they really, really look for growth. And obviously, you can't show much growth if you apply round 3 and then you apply round 1. So I wouldn't try and use that as a tactic to improve your round 1 chances, is I think the bottom line here. But that was an excellent question. I also want to mention a podcast interview I just had with Donna Levinson of MIT Sloan. They did not have a round 3 for many years, and I think added it only 2 years ago. So this is their 3rd year of having a round 3. They like it. They say they could have excellent applicants that year. And they say that many of their round 3 applicants, I think like the 84% of you or 86% of you who said you're applying for the first time, need to convince them and portray your, or how should I say, she said, they're not so much late as early. They're early round 1 applicants. So again, that kind of goes back to the idea of being really, really ready, because the reputation of round 1 applicants is that those are the high achievers, the really motivated people. They know what they're doing. They know why they're doing it. They have the competitive profile. So that's the person they're looking for, the one who's applying early for round 1, not late for round 1 of next year, not late for round 2 of this year. Okay. Let's see, we have a lot of other questions here. Shirag asks, when you see a profile, what are the most outstanding criteria? Okay, I've gone over this in several other webinars, and we have an upcoming webinar where I'm talking about what's, getting ready for a round 1 application. I think that's going to be in February. There are basically 4 critical elements in your profile. One is your academics, showing you can do the work. That usually boils down to your grade point average and your GMAT or GRE score, but other factors can and are considered. 2, your goal. Now, many of you people don't think of that as a part of your profile, your qualifications, but yes, it's a part of your profile. And schools want to see that they can help you achieve your goal, given your past work experience and your education to date. If you layer on their program and all the opportunities that program presents, can they help you achieve your goal? If you can achieve your goal without an MBA, then they're going to wonder why you want an MBA at all. If your goal is unrealistic or not feasible, then you're not really showing fit. The third element is, which I alluded to a minute ago, is the other elements of fit. Let's put it that way. That would be, do you share the values, goals, mission of the school? And let me go back to goal for a minute. Let's just leave goal where it is. Do you have a clear idea of what you want to get out of the school and what you're going to contribute while you're there? Or have you demonstrated that you will be able to contribute because you've been a contributor in the past? And 4 is, how are you going to stand out in the applicant pool? What are you going to add? And that's can be a matter of, and again, I did a podcast on this, on diversity, and I have the whole thing of the 3 IDs of diversity. Maybe you can, okay, please add a link to that, Rachel, okay? The diversity podcast, and we have a checklist that you can download from there also. And those would be the things that schools are looking for in the profile. Now, you might wonder, where does work experience fit in? It fits in terms of your goal, in terms of sharing the values and being able to contribute to class discussions. And it may fit in the idea that you're going to contribute something distinctive. But thanks for the very good question. I hope I didn't go on too long on that one. There's so much on that I could talk about. Okay. When is it too late to work with accepted for round 3? This is a question from David. We've worked with people within, a couple of days of a deadline, if they're willing to pay our rush rates. We don't recommend that. We recommend that you start, depending upon how many schools and what kind of assistance you want, at least 2 to 3 weeks before a deadline. If you want a comprehensive package, I would recommend more like a month. Again, it depends a little bit on what you exactly want. If you want, us to just do a final check on your application, then, you can come to us 2 business days before the deadline if you want. I don't think that's optimal. I think to really benefit from your investment with Accepted, I think you should come earlier. Did I answer your question, David? Okay, good. Thank you for it. Let's see what else we have here. Lynn asks, can you expand more on the diversity elements that top B schools are looking for in round 3 candidates? Oh, again, I did a whole podcast on diversity. And I think, yes, it's exhibit.com/193. But diversity can boil down to identity, deeds, and ideas. Those are the 3 IDs, the identity, the IDIDs, or the deeds, and the and ideas. Okay, so I don't think I can give the whole podcast here. There is also a downloadable worksheet there. I would, all those elements of diversity are going to count. If you are from an overrepresented pool in the group in the applicant pool, for example, Indian male IT engineers, that is overrepresented unless you've done something truly exceptional in your either outside of work or inside of work, or you're going to have a very hard time getting accepted round 3, and I would probably encourage you to wait for round 1. If you're an American consultant who's done typical consulting things, does not have diversity elements in his, ethnic diversity elements, underrepresented minority status, for example, it's probably going to be a little harder to get in round 3. And then you have to go, obviously, we look for diversity elements and we help our clients bring those out when we work with them. But and we help them show that they can contribute a distinctive perspective and ideas to a class and community, but it's harder. So we obviously need to know a lot more about you to really comment on that. But in the meantime, I would encourage you to listen to that podcast. And thanks for the great question. Chaitanya asks, how do you evaluate if a candidate can apply for round 3? Well, I don't think the question is really can, it's should. Should a candidate apply round 3? And we would have a discussion with the candidate based on a lot of the questions I raised here today. Is the candidate really ready? Do they have the GMAT score? Do they have the work experience? Do they have the extracurricular activities and leadership experience? Do they know why they want to apply round 3? All those elements. So, that's those are the kinds of, that's a discussion we would have. And if we felt that the candidate wasn't ready to apply round 3, or if the candidate felt that he or she really wanted to apply when the chances of acceptance were higher as opposed to lower, then we would say, all right, well, this is what you can do to strengthen your profile for round 1. Okay, does that answer the question, Chaitanya? And again, I apologize if I mispronounced somebody's name, but great question. Thank you. Lost it. Siad asked, do you also help people get to join programs? Yes, definitely. Okay, what else do we have? Shirag asks, what if a candidate is from an overrepresented section like IT programming in India, but wants to lead tech companies in the future? How does one separate himself from the rest? Well, again, that's something that we kind of get to go into when we work with you individually. That's and in terms of general advice on how to do that, I would go back to my 3 IDs. It's a matter of identity, which you would have a hard time doing if you're an Indian male engineer. I dids, they're deeds. Maybe you've had unusually impressive experience at work. Maybe off the job you've done something impressive in terms of your interests or your community service, travel, or something along those lines. And then, of course, you have perspective, which is ideas. How do you approach something? Are you the bridge builder on teams? Are you the creative type? There are different ways to bring out individuality, but it's not just a list. It's a combination usually of those 3 factors, especially when you come, or the last 2, when you come from an over represented group. Let's see what else we have here. Mark asks, is there a concern in going above the average age program by waiting until next year? That would depend on how old you are. It could be a concern, and then it's really kind of a cost-benefit analysis. Obviously, in reality, you're going to be 6 months older, or I guess you'll be a year older at matriculation. So it's something that would have to be weighed up. Again, do you want that would give more indications that you should apply round 3? On the other hand, if you're, it's something that would have to be weighed individually. If you're not really ready and you're not unlikely to get accepted, then are you better off trying for at least a little chance of acceptance now, perhaps applying to less competitive schools? Or do you want to just do everything you can to optimize your profile for a round 1 application? So it's, again, I don't mean to be mealy-mouthed, though I realize I am. It's a matter of your individual situation, but your age can be a factor. Oh, this is a good question. Jackie asks, I do not have many recommendations due to 2 years of work experience. I do not want to inform my boss. Who should I consider as a recommender besides immediate work employees? You would ask, you could ask somebody who's left your current employer, is no longer employed there. You could ask a previous employer if you do have previous employment. That's not clear to me from your question. You're welcome, Mark. You could, what else could you do? If you interned, if you are a college, you could ask your internship boss. You could ask a client whom you've worked closely with. Those are some options in this kind of a situation. You could ask a colleague, not your boss, who's a little bit above you. Okay, somebody's asking, what if you work in marketing analytics as a female and have a 740 GMAT but a 3.1 GPA? Should I apply round 3? Is that an overrepresented group, and would I have last chance? Also 29 right now. Matriculation would be a year later at 30. Well, so you have some things going for you in terms as a woman applying. You also have data analytics, marketing analytics experience, which is rather hot right now. You have a 740 GMAT, which is excellent. Should I apply round 3? Well, some of that depends on where you plan to apply, which you don't say. And I don't have any idea of other diversity elements here. I would probably and you say you're 29 now, you'll be 30 later. Ideally, top 10 schools. All right, thank you for adding that. I would say give it a go. I would say try. You will have to address the GPA. And again, if you go to accept.com/137, I did a podcast on how to address a low GPA. So I would check that out, or we'd be more than happy to work with you and help you address it. Okay, Kohei, what would be the drawback of applying to the 3rd round, doesn't get accepted, and then reapplying to the 1st round? It seems to be too short to prove my improvements in my professional experience. That is a potential problem of applying round 3 and then applying round 1. Now, schools will see the fact. I think that is a potential drawback. If you see, great projects coming your way and promotion and all that, then obviously you don't have that to worry about. But that is the weakness of applying round 3 and then round 1. Most schools will encourage you to reapply round 1. And while I still, again, this is why I would never apply round 3 with the hope that it just enhances your round 1 application. Obviously, they're going to realize that it's only 6 months since you applied last, and you're not going to dramatically change your profile. If your profile, however, the weakness in your profile was, let's say, a mediocre GMAT or GRE score, obviously you can prepare and retake it. You can increase your responsibilities, let's say in a community service capacity. Maybe you would get a promotion. So there are possibilities there. Okay, let's see what else I have here. You are a great group. I really want to thank you for all these questions. They're wonderful. Okay, so Rosalind asks, what are your thoughts on the optional essay? What elements should be included, especially for a school like Sloan, which doesn't have much opportunity for you to show who you are, cover letter, video, etc.? Well, most optional essays, first of all, look at the actual wording of the question. Some are rather restrictive. You're welcome, Kohei. Some of them are rather restrictive, and that they really only want you to address things that require explanation. Okay, the low GPA, the drop in your GPA, the when you were in a car accident, the time you took off, perhaps why your immediate supervisor is not your recommender, things like that, a gap in your work experience. So those, if you have a question like that is restrictive, obviously you have to respond and work within those restrictions. Other optional essays are much more open-ended, and I don't remember off the top of my head which is MIT's. If they're open-ended, then I would suggest that you should look at the application and what's in it, and then think of, what do I really want this school to know about me that isn't already included? It can be a community service initiative that you started. It can be a challenge you overcame. It can be all kinds of things. It can be something you're really proud of, either on the job or off the job, that perhaps shows a lot of maturity and emotional intelligence, but doesn't really come through in the other parts of the application. It can be any of those things. But again, it has to fit within the parameters of the question posed. Jeff says, hi, Linda, thanks for doing this. You're most welcome. When you say that data analytics is a hot field and a plus for schools, what generally does that mean? Does this category include big data technologies or data warehousing technologies or something else? I think it means and judging from your question, you probably know more about the field than I do. It means the ability to analyze large sets of data or use large sets of data and present that information in a meaningful way that allows others, mere mortals, to gain insight from it. Okay, how's that? And it is generally a hot field. Masters in data analytics right now are popping up like mushrooms after a rain, and schools are adding classes in data analytics, certifications in data analytics, tracks in data analytics because of the demand. So it definitely is a hot field. I think the technologies would be a part of that. But when I'm using it's more the ability to extract insight from the data than the actual technology. Okay, Harmony asks, if I have a 650 GMAT and a 3.6 GPA in engineering and looking to get into product management at a top 20 school, ideally this year, should I wait until round 1 of next year and retake the GMAT? I would really like to go this year. I've interviewed at Duke and UNC and was just invited to interview at Dartmouth, worried about what happens if I don't get into those schools. I didn't really apply to backup safety schools, which is my key worry, and was thinking round 3 would allow me to do that. I would encourage you to do that. Okay, your 3.6 in engineering is excellent. Again, they are trying to increase the number of women entering their schools. You did get these interviews. That's a really, really good sign. But I think it would be smart, prudent, to have some backup programs. And the lower ranked schools, in other words, by that I mean, for lack of a better description, outside the top 15, they know that they can get some great applicants who just didn't make it into the top 15 round round 3. So I would encourage you to apply based on what you wrote. Well, Irina, you asking again about the executive MBA. Should I apply round 3? Yes. Arifa asks, what is the oldest age to get a full-time MBA? I mean, that depends on the schools. Every so often I hear about people in their 40s going for the full-time MBA, but they are the exceptions, not the rule. I see another question also about age, 35. What is the chance at this age for a full-time MBA? That one is from Donna J. I don't really, there's no stats on it, so I can't give you a percentage. My sense is that many fewer people apply at that age, and even fewer are accepted, that the acceptance rate is lower at that age. A couple of suggestions. One, have you considered the Sloan Fellows programs at Stanford, it's the Stanford MSX program. It's the MIT Sloan Fellows program and the London Business School Sloan Fellows program. There's also the TRIUM program, which I think is HEC, NYU, and LSE, London School of Economics. These are all programs full-time programs aimed at slightly older applicants, mid-career applicants. IMD also is aimed at a slightly older applicant. So you may want to consider that. And they are not executive MBA programs. They're not the part-time. They are full-time programs. You're welcome, Harmony. So that would be one option for the slightly older people who are here. And if you do apply to full-time MBA programs, I think, again, you have to be really clear why you want that degree at this point in time, how you intend to use it, and that you are not relying solely on the school's career management center to find you a job. You have to be very realistic about your degree goals. Oh, that's a really good idea, Glenn. Glenn is asking, are there any podcasts or resources that focus specifically on rounding out the application recommendations, extracurriculars, etc.? No, but I like that concept. I might do one. I'm not sure I'm going to do it soon enough to help you. But I don't have anything like that. We do have a Focus on Fit podcast, and we have the one on distinguishing yourself. And my assistant is indicating I should wrap things up because the hour is almost up. So at this point, I want to thank you for coming, for your questions, for your time and attention. And now a final thought and a story. The thought: there is a paradox at the heart of the MBA application process for top programs. And this is whether you apply round 3 or round 1 or round 2 or round X. You have to both fit in and stand out. By fitting in, I mean you need to show that you belong at your target schools in terms of your goals, your academics, your work experience, and values. That you're going to be a valuable member of the school's community. And standing out, you need to stand out in a highly qualified, intensely competitive, and talented applicant pool. You need to show that you're going to contribute distinctively, that unique perspective, that you're going to add something special, something different to the community. It doesn't mean you have to climb Mount Everest, swim the English Channel, or find a cure for cancer, though the latter would sure be nice. But you do have to present yourself as an individual. There's no need to navigate this paradox alone. We're here to guide you to acceptance. And here's the story of one client who had some very special circumstances when he applied. Not necessarily bad, but definitely different. He wrote, Linda and Jennifer, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your personalized help with every step of my application. I decided to accept Stanford GSB's offer to begin my MBA this year. I am humbled and grateful for how you went the extra mile to advise me. It means a lot to me and has left a deep impression on me that you continue to invest so much of your valuable time in advising me. And let's face it, everyone has special circumstances. You're all different, and you all deserve the individual guidance that will stop you from spinning your wheels and help you to optimize your applications so that you can get into the MBA program that will skyrocket your career. Engage with a guide who will kindly give you insightful, trustworthy, and necessary feedback to help you get into your favorite schools so that you can pursue your dream career. To get that guidance, follow the steps on the screen, which are the steps taken by all the clients you've heard from today. They sought acceptance help and successfully navigated that paradox to acceptance. They applied confidently and successfully. They're now pursuing their dreams. Follow their well-trodden path, take the steps on the screen as they did, and pursue yours too.